This morning, arguably Arizona's most famous inmate, there she is. She returns to court today. A new jury will eventually decide if Jodi Arias lives or dies for her first-degree murder conviction.
But before the new jury is seated, the judge and the attorneys have some things to work out, and they'll have to pick unbiased jurors. So Chris did a little social experiment on the streets of Phoenix, asking people, do you know Jodi? And Chris, what'd you come up with?
Well, we've been covering this case for what seems like forever, and I thought that it would just be impossible to find anybody who didn't know the name Jodi Arias. What I found out, it's not. Hey, ladies, quick question for you.
We decided to do an unofficial poll.
You ever heard of Jodi Arias?
Yes.
A social experiment.
I honestly don't know too much about the case.
To ask 80 random people in different parts of the valley.
Have you ever heard of Jodi Arias?
2 questions. One.
Have you ever heard of Jodi Arias?
Yes.
She did some crazy stuff, man.
And the other?
Did you ever formulate an opinion if she should get the death penalty or not?
That's a hard one.
I do. I don't believe in the death penalty.
The judge in the Arias case said she intends to impanel 400 people to find a new jury. The threshold to sit on that jury doesn't matter if you've heard of Jodi Arias, but rather if you've formed an opinion on the case.
It's up to the jury to decide that.
What if you get impaneled on the jury?
Well, if I get paneled on the jury, that's not a good thing.
After hours on the street, here's what I found. 14 people out of 80 I asked said they'd never heard the name Jodi Arias. 66 said they had. Of those who knew the case, 45% said they had an opinion on whether she should get the death penalty or not. 18% said she should live. 27% said she shouldn't. But more than half hadn't formed an opinion on the case. Attorney Mike Black says that's not uncommon.
It would surprise you in picking a jury how many people have never heard of particular cases. And I will bet you 10 to 1 in this particular case, it may take a couple of 3 weeks to pick a jury, but I'll bet they can find a jury.
You ever heard of the Jodi Arias trial?
No.
What I learned is no matter how much something is played on the air, in a county this big, some folks just tune it out.
No.
So I gotta admit, I was skeptical going into it that we could find anybody who didn't know the name Jodi Arias. I guess I'm a changed man, you guys. So I found 14 people out of 80 who didn't know anything about the case, didn't even know that the case existed. I doubt that the court is going to have a hard time finding a jury out of 400 people impaneled. And even if they do have a hard time, the judge can always change the venue at a later date.
All right, Chris, thanks very much.